Hey man, looks like you got a quiz coming up on percents. Yeah, so you probably better remember how to do those conversions from like fraction to decimal to percent or back the other way. You gotta know them all. So let's take a look at a couple of these. I think they're pretty easy. Let's look at 1/8. That's a fraction. Let's turn it to a decimal. So if you're going fraction to decimal, you divide. Yep. You divide the numerator by the denominator. So you're going to do 1 divided by 8. 1 divided by 8. Yeah, I just use a calculator if your teacher lets you use it. 1 divided by 8 is 0.125. Okay. It's that easy. Just remember to divide. Fraction to decimal. Divide. Now, if you have to turn your fraction into a percent, it makes sense to divide first to get a decimal and then multiply by 100. Yeah, because multiplying by 100 is super simple. You just move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. So let's look at 1/8 like we had before. So first you turn it into 0.125 and then you turn that decimal to a percent by multiplying by 100, which moves the decimal 2 spaces to the right. So it's going to end up with a decimal between the 2 and the 5. It's going to be 12.5%. Okay? Alright. So that's fraction to decimal and fraction to percent. So that's pretty easy, right? So now what if you have like this 0.9. You got to turn it to a fraction. Decimal to fraction. So decimal turning into fraction. How hard could it be, man? So my rule here is just say it. Just say the number using place value. Say it out loud. The 9's in the tenths place. So that's 9/10. That's the fraction, man. 9/10. Sounds the same as the decimal. I check to see if I can simplify it, but the 9 and the 10 don't have common factors other than 1. So there's no way to simplify 9/10. Okay? And then to go from the decimal to the percent, I already did that. Decimal to percent, you multiply by 100. So multiply by 100, move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. So the decimals starting out right there, it's going to move 1, 2. It's going to move 2 spaces to the right, which is a space past the 9. So that means you have to fill it in with a 0. So it's 90%. Which makes sense. It's almost 100%, just like that fraction's almost a whole thing. 9 out of 10. So that totally makes sense. Alright. Lastly, what if you start with a percent instead? Well, let me tell you something about percent. The per part of it means out of. the cent part of it means 100. Just like there's 100 cents in a dollar, there's 100 years in a century, there's 100 legs on a centipede. There's not really, but it looks like there's 100, and I think that's why they call it a centipede. Anyway, cent means 100. So per cent means out of 100. So 2% means 2 out of 100. And that's the fraction. You just put the percent over 100. And then you can simplify this one. Divide those both by 2 and we get 1/50, which can't be simplified anymore. Everybody knows that you can't simplify a 1 any further. So it's 1/50. To go from a percent to decimal, I forgot to write what I just did. We just went from a percent to a fraction. It's just over 100. Okay. And the last one, we're going percent to a decimal. Guess what? Since decimal to percent is multiplied by 100, going the other way is divide by 100, which means just slide the decimal 2 spaces to the left. All you have to do, though, is remember the decimal on a number that doesn't have the decimal written is on the right side. It's right at the end of my lightsaber there. It's right where that, between the 2 and the percent, it's 2.0. And now we slide it 2 spaces to the left. So when it slides 2 spaces to the left, it moves a space past the 2, so it's 0.02. Which makes sense because that's 2 in the hundredths place. When I just say it, 2 hundredths, 2 hundredths, it all makes sense, man. It's all the same. So good luck on your quiz. We'll see you next time.